Susan Candell, who is going to explain to us what's going on with some of the state ballot initiatives.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Candell. I'm a current city council member from the city of Lafayette and former mayor. And I am one of the proponents of the Our Neighborhood Voices initiative. And what is that? We are a group, a statewide coalition, including cities, actually SCAG, which is the equivalent of ABAG down in Southern California, with 191 cities, and a whole bunch of lawmakers across the state, trying to get an initiative on the 2024 November general election ballot, the presidential election. And what this will do is it will, every time there is a conflict between a local zoning and land use law and a state land use or zoning law, the local one will win. And basically what it will do is it will immediately, on passage, cities, if they didn't adopt some of the state laws, all of a sudden your local laws will come back. If your city wants, because some of these state laws that have been passed, especially around housing, they actually work in some cities. They work in, they don't work in some cities, they do work in other cities. So each city can decide which ones they want to adopt. Like for Lafayette, the ADU laws are awesome. They're doing great. And so I don't imagine us doing anything, and we'll keep that intact. But each city will be able to choose which ones they want or don't want. And it also will take the teeth out of all this housing element and RENA and builder's remedy. All those teeth will be gone instantly. And why are we doing it? It's because, for some, we have, everybody's got their reasons, but the one that I really honestly hear the most is that we have a real affordable housing crisis. We have a homelessness crisis. None of these laws are ever going to solve those. They're relying on policies that is the trickle down theory of housing, and this thing that if you upzone everywhere, all of a sudden it's going to become affordable. Even the Urban Institute came out with a study recently that totally debunked all of these things. And so the state is not working on things that actually will work. And then you see projects like the one you guys all know on Sloat, right? Which is it's a Housing Accountability Act. And even Scott Wiener, even Chris Elmendorf this week is trying to back away from the natural outcome of all these laws, which is Sloat Boulevard. That is the intended outcome of all these laws. And even they're trying to distance themselves from it because they realize, wow, maybe we went too far. And this is true. They have gone too far. Even they are starting to realize it. And the only way for us to do it is by a constitutional amendment. We've been playing, there's a bunch of us that have been doing this for a while and screaming, Chicken Little going, hey, this guy is going to fall. This guy is going to fall. All these laws are almost going to coalesce into what we have today. And they have. And we've been trying to fight these bills one by one by one. It's impossible. They just pass another bill. So cities that are suing for like SB 9, sue against it, and then they'll pass it again the next year. There's no way to fight it without the constitutional amendment. There are people like Kalima Pryforce from Emeryville, who is a low-income renter in Emeryville on the city council. And the reason why he won his election was not because he followed the YIMBY other council members that were trying to get elected. He went with, hey, Emeryville, with all this building that's been done, our Black population has plummeted. It is not helping any of the people we need to help. So in this initiative, we recently submitted it to the Attorney General. So not only does it, when state laws conflict with local ones, the local ones win. We also added a carve out for 100% affordable projects. That's the type of housing we actually need in this state that will help the people that we're trying to help. And so those will be able, the state will be able to streamline those and help, but only in areas, we put a caveat around it, only in areas where your city has zoned for them to be allowed. And so if you have an area that is zoned for multifamily housing and they want 100% affordable housing in that multifamily home project, it has to conform to your zoning. And we're very enthusiastic about the support that has given us and how it can fight back the narrative that all we're trying to do is not build, because that's absolutely not true. We want to be able to build the type of housing we actually need, not what's being forced on us by Sacramento. The really fun part is that when we did the poll across the whole state, across demographics, across language, across everything, we poll at about 65% across the state. And that's English speakers, Spanish speakers, Democrats, Republicans, everybody. And it's because people really believe that the local government is the best form of government. And why I say that is, think about this. California, for the last 150 years, has built itself up to be the 5th largest economy in the world. And how did we do this? With good local city planning and a state that wasn't forcing things down our throats. And we can do it again. We know how to do it. We want to work with the state, not as enemies of the state, because they have made us their enemies. That is the narrative that is coming down, that it's all city's fault. So my own Senator Glazer, Steve Glazer from Orinda, he was we were at a big league meeting in front of a lot of local leaders in the East Bay. And he came out, it was brutal honesty. He goes, well, the state's going to continue to blame you guys, the cities, for all of this, all of these problems. And it's not your fault because you guys actually don't build housing. And they're going to continue to do it because you're the weakest link. And we went, wow, brutal honesty from our state legislator. And that is what they're doing. And it's not right. It basically, they're eroding local democracy unnecessarily to achieve what they're saying is something that they're trying to achieve, but they're not achieving it, and they won't. And we all know that everything's gotten horrifically unaffordable, and the homelessness crisis is horrifically worse. And they're still blaming cities for all that. It's not our fault, and it's not your fault. And so if you ever get a policy where you decide, okay, let's eliminate democracy, what kind of policy is that? That means you really don't have an answer. And so we're tired of it. We want to fight back because we want to actually start working together again, instead of this, absolutely awful relationship that we cities have with the state right now, and with you guys too. They're blaming all the residents too, right? And it's not your fault either. And so we just really need to hold them accountable, get this thing on the ballot. We so far have raised about $750,000. We need a lot more. We've submitted the actual initiative language, the final initiative language, and went in about 2 weeks ago to the Attorney General, A.G. Bonta's office. And what they do is they've got 60 days to review it and give it back as a title and the summary of what the initiative will look like in the actual ballot in November 2024. And like you think, this could get political, and the AG could, call it the Destruction of California Act of 2024. They could. They likely won't. The last time we did this 2 years ago, they gave us a very fair title and summary. And the Legislative Analyst Office said, hey, the fiscal impacts are unknown because it depends on what cities do with it. And so we had a meeting with LAO last week. I'm making the pitch, and it's a strong pitch, that there's actually cities will be a lot better off if we pass this, because right now the state is hell-bent on eliminating all the fees that we can collect. They are hell-bent on penalizing us by giving us huge fines for things that we don't control. And also, so the old way that, projects used to get worked out in cities, especially my city, and I don't know your city, is that you used to go into developer agreements. And in these developer agreements, cities would often get community benefits, which were typically to mitigate the impacts of a project, like a new streetlight or a lane widening or, stuff like that. But those things are actually really expensive. And when you negotiate for those during negotiating with a project developer, compared to the cost of their project, it's very small. But for most of us small cities, it's a big deal. And so we've lost all ability to negotiate with any of these guys. And so we're stacking up lists and lists of how many good things cities have gotten over the years and how they're all gone now. And so this really is impacting, especially smaller cities' bottom lines. And so we're hoping the legislative analysts will be a little bit more in our favor. John Heath and I, who's one of our other proponents, we're meeting with the actual Attorney General's office on Friday at noon, and we're going to pitch a title that we want, that we know they won't give us, but it's the Restore Local Democracy and Affordable Housing Act of 2024. You got to swing for it and see what they'll do. But all we do is maybe that'll go, okay, well, we'll give them something fair. We can't go too crazy on them. But it's really an important message. So Kalima Pryforce from Emeryville, he was on KCBS this afternoon at 3:30 with Doug Sovereign. I don't know if you guys listen to, I listen to him all the time every morning. And it was very fair. And it was KCBS does a good job. At the end of it, they said they also reached out to California YIMBY and some state legislators to see if they would comment, and they said no. And the good part is that Kalima is a force of nature. He is, like I said, a low-income Black, renter in Emeryville, and they're not going to come after him, right? That would be, political suicide. So I hope you guys can go and, get all your groups, whoever you're involved with, go to ourneighborhoodvoices.com. We have a full website. Encourage you guys to donate if you can. Encourage your friends to donate, but at least sign up and get on our mailing list. And so you can get all of our, we've got statewide Zooms that we're doing. We also have a meeting every Wednesday night, actually at 6 o'clock. You just missed the beginning of it. So we're on every Wednesday at 6. You can come on and ask questions. You can, host a Zoom fundraiser, a in-person house party, and we'll get somebody to your event. So I guess that's it. The slope. Oh, so you guys had the slope picture. Did you guys see the YIMBY town picture that took the slope tower, and repeated it like 20 across, and it was on YIMBY town? Hey, what happened? What I did today was a good day's work.
Started on Twitter.
Unreal.
Yeah,
right?
unreal.
You're like, that's the vision. And so if that's, and SB 423, the Scott Wiener's probably going to get passed through the assembly soon, is going to exempt projects in the coastal zones. And that is, to me, it's like, come on, stop it, right? The people passed the Coastal Act in the 70s, knowing our California coasts are literally probably the most precious thing California has. I would say like Yosemite, the mountains, it's like, nah, it's our coastline for sure. And so he just wants to just let whatever happened there can happen there ministerially. And they've gone too far. It's time to fight back. It's time to restore local democracy, get the state to start working back with us instead of against us, and really solve our real problems. So that's about it. And if anybody has any questions, I can take a hand. You're saying chat. Oh, should I look in the chat if there are any questions in the chat?
Yes, there is one in the chat.
Concerned.
Barbara
Yeah.
Dwyer had a question, and I just put the link hopefully on the chat for you.
Is it restricted to
No,
zoning?
I think you should
don't
go
answer.
read it, but Barbara, would you like to ask the question?
Hi, yeah, I probably missed the beginning of Susan's talk. I'm curious as to whether this plan you're talking about would, I mean, having local control sounds great, but it concerns me in other ways. Would it be restricted to zoning and building issues, or does it apply to any and all state laws?
No, just zoning and land use. And we've exempted, and we worked really hard this past year to get our initiative tight. We exempted all those covered state statutes that actually do have some zoning and land use elements in it, like CEQA, like fair housing.
Mhm.
All these things stand. We do not affect those. And so all this objections to people saying, oh, you're going to eliminate CEQA. It's like, no, we're not. We're going to keep CEQA.
Okay.
And all the other covered state statutes that people were implying that we're going to override. Not at all, especially Coastal Act, all that stuff. Of course, those
Well,
stay.
I was thinking of something different, like Prop 13, Costa-Hawkins, things, rent control, that kind
Zero.
of stuff.
Zero,
Okay.
zero effect on that. And actually, we said that out loud for some of those things in the actual initiative. It doesn't affect any of those.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any questions? It looks like Eric does.
Yeah, just a quick question on the carve out for 100% affordable housing. Did that establish an area median income number, like
Oh, 80% or less.
80% or less? Good, that's
Yes.
excellent.
Thank you. That we put that in specifically. I didn't mention that. Good point.